elephant out of the, or address the elephant in the room, or maybe you don't even notice. My microphone, one of the pieces was not charged, so I wasn't able to get that up and running, but we're gonna power through. Perfect is the enemy of done, so we're gonna go anyway, and we'll have the mic ready to go again next week. I'm just going to share this link real quick in case anyone wants to join me live. All right, posting that out, and we have some exciting stuff today. As you guys can see, I'm not in a sling right now. I'm not in a sling. We're out of the sling because I'm at home. I'm around the apartment. So generally around the apartment, I'm able to be out of it. Still not doing anything really with it. I can do some passive range of motion, like I can do assisted, moving my arm and stuff like that, but nothing active. I'm not able to raise it by itself without assistance. I'm not able to put any weight on it or anything like that. But I'm able to be out of it, let my arm, move and dangle and be a little bit more free. And then when I get outside of the house, I still have the sling on the majority of the time, more as a warning to everyone else and a precaution so no one's bumping into it or hitting my arm or expecting a handshake from that side. And that'll be for about another week and a half or so. So not this coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday will be when I'll pretty much be out of it altogether. So for the rest of this episode, we're going to be talking about I had a cool experience last weekend at a kickboxing competition that I had gone to support some of my teammates from the gym. I'm driving again now that I can be out of the sling and I'm off all the meds and everything. I've been off the meds for a couple of weeks, but I'm able to drive again and take myself places, so I'm not just confined to the house unless someone takes me somewhere. I was able to start teaching again this week, so teaching privates and teaching groups. So we're going to touch on both of those. And then I do have a little update from the YMCA. So if you are watching, let me know if you are watching live or if you are watching later on, watching the replay. Just leave me a comment or something in the chat. Let me pull this up here, and then we will get going. So I mentioned that I'd gone to a kickboxing Muay Thai competition this weekend. So that's where I want to start. And it's called a PKB, so Point Kickboxing or Point Muay Thai tournament. And it's essentially a stepping stone from drilling in the gym to amateurs in terms of whether it's MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai. It's kind of a stepping stone for people who have aspirations of competing in those types of sports and those types of events, but aren't quite comfortable getting in there yet. They don't have a whole lot of experience. So it's essentially like more competitive sparring and sparring people that you don't know. So you have to account for their style and there's a whole lot that goes into it. So, you weigh in, you get matched up with someone in your weight class. You compete the rounds, it was 2-minute rounds, and then they would have a third round if it was tied after the first two. So I've never been to one of these events before. I've never competed in one, and I've never actually been to one because up in New Jersey, when I was in competition mode or more in that mind space of competing, there didn't seem to be any really around. I didn't do a ton of research. I didn't really know a whole lot about the combat sports scene at that time. But I did have my amateur MMA fight, but it was cool to, or it would have been cool to have one of those events beforehand, before having my amateur fight. But I had some jiu-jitsu tournaments, so that was a plus for sure. But I went to support some of the team at Fusion. So Fusion is the gym that I've been training at. So I went to support the team, and one of my friends in particular had asked me to be in his corner and coach him a little bit. So I went in my sling. And it ended up that a lot of the guys didn't have people there to coach them necessarily, or at least dedicated people there to coach them. So I ended up cornering a handful of guys from the team, which was a really cool experience. I've never, outside of jiu-jitsu tournaments, I've never cornered someone before, so in a striking context. But I mean, I've been coaching for long enough, and I've been watching people spar long enough. I know how how to make those adjustments in competition. So it was a really good experience to be there and watch what was going on, but also be able to coach in real time in a more competitive environment. So it was a lot of fun. The guys did really well. It was cool to see some of their growth and evolution, and then pick some things to learn from this experience. So we'd watched the first couple matches because we didn't have anyone from the gym going for the first couple matches. So I'd watched the first one or two, and immediately I was like, wow, everyone is wild and they're gassing out, and it's a lot of stuff that you see from people who are less experienced. And that's okay. That's what these competitions are for. That's what these events are for. So the biggest things, I mean, everyone was just really going hard out of the gate and really pushing and throwing super big, wild punches. And they ended up just gassing out and getting super tired after like a minute. And then it was just sloppy, which again is what these events are for, which was cool. And it was fun to see them experience that. But that made me think, it was like, all right, what can I take from these instant observations and bring to the team to help them in their matches? So the biggest things, I gave them 3 things. Let me make sure I can remember all of them. I gave them 3 things to work on. Number 1 was keeping their hands up. Like, dropping your hands is like a death sentence in striking for the most part, unless you know how to move your head really, really well. But in this type of competition where you don't have a whole lot of experience, it's hard to be that calm and relaxed to move your head and get to the point where you can do that effectively. So keeping those hands up, making sure you're not getting hit, was going to help you get a lot less tired and not slug it out so much because you're not as tired. The second thing was throwing straight punches. So like jabs and straights right down the pipe. Fastest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. Everyone throwing looping punches, big haymakers at their opponents was not doing them very well, and they can be easily intercepted by just straight punches. So that was the second thing, is keep everything tight, keep everything on a rope, and fire those straight punches down the middle. And then the third thing was stepping offline. Everyone was just being very aggressive and moving forward and trying to land those big shots. I wanted them stepping to the side, so moving laterally as opposed to linear. And what that does is it helps to create angles, and it will stifle their opponent's movement a little bit because it forces their opponent to turn. And in that moment where they're turning, we can then counter, we can throw shots, and we can put ourselves at an advantage. So those 3 very simple, very basic things, but that is a big part of my philosophy, the way that I learned and the way that I teach, is getting really, really good at the basics. Executing the basics at a high level is what makes someone an advanced athlete or an advanced martial artist. It's not how many techniques you know or how many fancy things you can pull off or how many like really advanced moves that you can do. It's about, can you do the basics at a high level consistently? That's what makes someone an advanced athlete, really. So that's what I told them, and the ones that were able to execute that did really well, and even the ones that weren't, they could see where that applied, and it gives them a base to work off of and stuff to learn. And that's also what these events are for, is just to learn. It doesn't go on a record or anything. It's just about learning, getting experience in that type of environment. So something I did think was cool personally was one of the head coaches from Fusion from the gym was there, and he didn't give me props directly. He was coaching some of the guys, so we were kind of like co-cornering for the most part. And there were 1 or 2 times where, after he had heard me talk to one of the guys, we came in at the in between rounds to talk to the guy who was competing, and he looked at me and he deferred to me to talk first to the guy to give him the advice and what I wanted him to do going out to the next round. And then he jumped in afterwards and was like, yeah, that was pretty much everything that I was gonna say. So that was really cool. It was a good experience for me. It was good, a little bit of a confidence booster in my ability, because I'm used to coaching a lot of kids and working with kids primarily. I've taught a lot of adults, but not really at a higher level or a competitive level. I've trained a couple guys and helped them prepare for fights, but haven't really done that at a high level, especially in a while. So it was not a high level, but haven't done that competitively in a while. So it was nice to be able to do that and to get that little confidence boost that I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. And I know that, but it's always good to have that recognition from people that you respect and that know what they're talking about in your space. So at the end of the day, a couple of the guys won some matches, a couple of the guys lost some matches. It was a great experience for them. I was really happy to see them just get out there, put themselves out there, and get into competition. So that was really cool. A lot of them were asking me for feedback. We had some really good conversations and things that they can take away and learn. And then me personally, I was able to improve my coach's eye. Like I said, boost the confidence a little bit. And just being in that environment was cool to learn how that stuff works and learn the benefits of it. Like, I had never been to an event like that before, like I had mentioned. And I think it would be cool for even people that are just hobbyists, that just do it for fun, or those that want to get a little bit more competitive than just sparring in the gym. I think it's a great opportunity. So I can definitely see myself being around the scene a little bit more of these type of events, especially once I have my own students consistently in my own school. So it was a great opportunity there. Wanted to touch on that a little bit. But moving on from that, getting more into the business and teaching side of things. Like I said, I'm driving now. I'm able to drive. I'm able to take myself places. It's still a little goofy because when I'm driving, I'm not really doing anything with my right arm, so I can't have my hand on the steering wheel. I can't even really put the car into gear just yet with this arm. I can, but it's not really a range of motion or force that I should be putting on my shoulder right now. So I'm like reaching across with my left hand to put it into gear, which is it's kind of silly, but it is what it is. Sorry about that. It is what it is. Not a big deal, but it is nice to be driving and get out of the house a little bit, take myself places, and not just have to rely on everyone to have to take me places. So it's nice for sure. What is going on here? I have a pop-up that's bothering me, getting in the way. All right, so speaking of driving, I drove myself to the first private lesson I've done since surgery. You guys will start seeing some of the highlights from that probably over the next couple of days. I did record it as normal, and I'm gonna get some clips from there and start to post them. I'm in the sling teaching the class, but the guy Julian that I've been working with, he was able to get one of his friends and guys from the gym to come over and train, so they were able to work together. I didn't really have to do a whole lot besides demonstrating and watching and giving cues and stuff like that. So it was really good. I felt good. I was able to demo some stuff, being very careful, but it didn't really inhibit the coaching at all, which was great. And something that talking to a mentor, this was actually a few months ago. Maybe it was just a little before surgery, but he had said to me that, people come to me and they work with me because of my brain and the coaching that I provide, not what I can do physically as an athlete or a martial artist. And while, yeah, that is part of it, and there is an element of, being able to back up what you say with what you do, the true skill of a coach is being able to see what needs to be fixed and then relay that information in a way that the student can understand. And my ability to do that has increased a lot, especially the last couple of years. And it's really why people continue to work with me. And being in the sling and not being able to physically do a whole lot is a good reminder of that I'm not just about what I can do as an athlete and as a martial artist, but what I can do as a coach. Using my brain and using my eye is a really good asset. So it was a good reminder. And then I also, yesterday, got to work with the prep school that I've been working with for the last couple of months. So this week was the start of a new session. And so I have a group of 15 kids that I'm working with now. So they're 4, 5, and 6, so varied age groups or varied ages. That is the age group. And I knew going into surgery, I had the surgery December 17th, so we're actually almost a month to the day after surgery. And I knew going into it that I had to be able to take this opportunity to continue the momentum with this class, with this prep school, and to continue the momentum for my business, for me personally, and building up my reputation in the community. This was going to be huge, and I couldn't take 3 months off from doing that. I felt like I had to jump up and take this step. And I knew it was going to be challenging because, 4 weeks out, I'm barely out of the sling at this point. So I had 21 kids last session, October, November, December. And it's 15 this one. We decided to cap it lower at 15 because I wanted to give the kids a better experience. I felt like they got a great experience last time, but I wanted to be able to give a little bit more individual attention to each of the kids. And since it's just me teaching 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, I needed less kids to be able to do that. We did raise the price for the families and for the program because of that, but it still filled up overnight, which was awesome. Unexpected, but awesome. I put out a video yesterday. I recorded it pretty much right before I went in to start setting up and teach the class, and I was nervous. I was actually really nervous, more nervous than I was expecting to go in and teach. And it wasn't so much about the teaching itself. It was more the uncertainty of not knowing how it was going to go given my arm. I'm not able to use my arm a whole lot. I didn't teach in the sling. I took the sling off because I didn't want it to end up being like a warning or a conversation piece. I'm not hiding the fact that I had the surgery and that I can't really use my arm, but I didn't want to promote it and have people just be able to plainly see it. But I knew that I wasn't going to be using it very much. I wasn't just going to, throw away all the healing and recovery that I've done so far. So I went in and I was nervous. I had a good plan and I was pretty confident it was going to go well, but you never know. You never know until it happens. And it actually went really, really, really well. So I think we had 14 yesterday. 14 out of the 15 ended up showing up for that first week. And my plan was week 1 is going to be very, very much just about expectations and learning the rules and how the class is going to run for the next 8 weeks. So we went over focus positions, and one thing that I brought over from the last couple of weeks of the last session was having the kids do some sort of task or do something specific as soon as they get in the room. So the way it works is they come in based on their grade or based on their class. So I'll have like first graders come in and then kindergartners and then pre-K. And there's like a minute or two in between when they get there. So what I did, what happened at the beginning of the last session was the kids were just talking and running around and going crazy, bouncing off the walls. And then by the time we were starting class, they were all amped up and they weren't focused. It was hard to get them reined in and focused on me and my voice and what we were going to do in the class. So the last couple of sessions, or the last couple of classes, last session back in December, I gave them something to do. I gave them a little game or an exercise or a partner drill, just something specific where they're taking my directions and then they're going and applying it. So they're moving, so they're still getting some of that energy out, helping them to focus. A lot of times they were working with a partner and they're following directions. So it was priming their brain and priming their body for what we were gonna do in the class, which really, really, really helped everything going into the rest of the class. So we started with that right from the bat. I had a very small mini obstacle course set up for them. And we did that for the first couple minutes while everyone was coming in, while we were waiting for the rest of the group. And then we got started. We went over some focus positions. We went over some basic gross motor skills and strength exercises. I half demoed the bottom of a push-up, how I wanted them to do it, but that was probably a little bit more than I should have done. I didn't push or put any weight on my arm, but I probably moved it a little more than I should have. But it was okay. Nothing was really, nothing crazy happened. And for the most part, I had kids kind of demoing, just listening to what I was saying and then walking them through it. So that was really good. We did have a little talk about respect. And at that point, we were about 35, 40 minutes into class as we were sitting down. So we're at the point where it's like they're getting a little tired, they're getting a little antsy, and now we're sitting down. So the conversation actually went pretty well, considering it was week 1. They don't understand the rules yet, and they were kind of antsy. The teacher that was in that classroom before me, she was like, yeah, all the kids today have been kind of wild. She's like, I don't know if it's the cold weather or whatever it is, because it's colder here in Florida than it normally is. It's like down in the 30s. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. And I matched their energy, and we were able to have a good fun class, and they were actually pretty good listening and pretty good being leaders for the most part. Again, especially considering week one, and 75% of the class, 80% of the class is new kids. I had a couple kids returning, but most of them were new. And then we finished up with a game. And the game that I picked, I didn't have to really do anything physically. We played a game called Sumo that I had taken from Budo. And I have gymnastics mats that I lay out, and they get air shields, and I have to try to knock their partner out of off of the mat area. So I didn't really have to do anything except for talk and walk them through the game, which is really going to be what most of the games that we're going to be playing and most of the things we're going to be doing are going to be over the course of this session, because this will take us into about the middle of March, early mid-March, and it's only at that point that I'm going to be starting strengthening. So I will be able to do probably some very slow punching in the air with these guys towards the end of the session, towards the end of the 8 weeks. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot that I'm going to be able to do with this arm. So it's going to be a lot of stuff that I can just walk them through verbally and without showing them. So that's a little bit of a challenge for this session, but it's one that is definitely welcomed and that I'm ready for, and I'm excited to work around it and still give these kids a great experience. Based on week one, things went really, really well, and I'm excited I learned all the kids' names in week one, and I'm excited to give them a great experience and improve from the last session. And then I have only one more update, really, but it is an interesting one. So I told you guys last week about the whole YMCA saga. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I was told that on Tuesday, the wellness director would be back and she would address the application that I sent in and start to get things moving. And I actually got an email from her this morning asking if we can meet on Monday to discuss like expectations and next steps and all that kind of stuff. So we have that set up. I had that meeting on Monday, and I don't remember if I had talked about this much last week, but I spent a lot of this week really prepping my program for exactly how I want it to run. So after talking with a mentor last week, he had recommended that I lay out what I want the program to look like at 100%. I'm pretty sure I did talk about this in the last video. What I want it to look like if I have my own facility. So I've been working on that and laying it out, and it's honestly a little bit more challenging than I expected, mainly because I'm going deeper than I thought I would have to. So there was one point the other day I was working on how I want the curriculum and the belt ranks to flow. And the challenge I was having is I got all the way through. I spent a couple hours working on exactly how I want this to flow, how I want the belts to flow based on different age groups. And then I get to the end and I'm like, this is too much. I was like, I can't put this forward because in reality, it's not going to work out how I want it to work out. So I had to spend that time and essentially make that mistake so that I didn't make it in practice. And just looking at it, after doing what I've done for the last 10 years, I can pretty much spot some of the holes, not everything, obviously, but I can spot some of the holes in what I was building. And I realized that the way that I had set it up, it wasn't going to work. It was going to be too much to follow and too much to try to work with. There would be too many challenges. So I went back to the drawing board, and I've made progress towards what I want to get to, but I'm still working on it. And then some of the other things that I'm going to do to prepare for Monday is I have a landing page built out on my website for this program. Right now, it's still password protected because I haven't officially launched it yet. It's not quite where I want it to be, but I have some things there that I'm going to update, and I want to get that really solid so I can put out like, this is what the program does. This is the goal of the program. This is how we work with kids. And then more specifically, this is how we get there. And then I can, fill in the details with the curriculum and the belt rank system and all that as we're getting closer to launching the program, because that's the stuff that the Y is going to be less concerned about, all those specifics of what exactly the skills are that I'm teaching, and the progression. It's important to have an idea for that, but I don't need all the details set up right away. So I really just want to get more of an overview and a specific on the why and the what they're going to get, the result that the families are going to get, so the Y can get a good understanding of how to promote it, how the program is going to work, and then what we need to do together to launch this thing. So that's what I've been working on and spending most of my time on. And that's what I'm going to be working on for the next couple of days up to the meeting on Monday. And further from that, I'll have an update for you guys on how that meeting went and what the next steps are, probably next week, next Friday when I do the next episode here. So those are all the updates business-wise. No questions in the chat right now, which is cool. If you guys have a question or you have comment on something that I've talked about, please put it in the comments of this video. I check notifications and everything every day, and I respond to all the comments. So make sure you leave something on there. If there's a specific question you want me to address, just in the comments, or you want me to talk about it next week on the live, please fill that in as well. Please feel free to drop those comments. But there is one more thing that I actually wanted to touch on real quick. I just hit 1,000 followers on Instagram, I think yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. And that allows me to go live on Instagram. So I will be going live on Instagram. My plan is once a week on Mondays because I want to start to shift my brand over there and my content over there from just working with adults and putting out techniques and stuff to talking to parents. And I want to start to talk to parents and give tips to parents about martial arts and self-defense and child development, and use all the experience and knowledge that I have to start to educate and hint and warm up towards the fact that I'm going to be starting a program with the Y and eventually starting my own dedicated facility as well. So I want people over there on Instagram to start to understand that I'm going from, I'm not just teaches, striking and jiu-jitsu to adults. I am a professional educator, professional martial arts educator, and I'm going to be running a program for kids and that I know what I'm talking about with this stuff. So I'm going to be going live on there once a week, probably on Mondays, kind of to start out the week, maybe around like lunchtime or so, to try and catch parents when they may be paying attention. And my goal there is to educate parents about different things. So topics could be like frequently asked questions about martial arts. I'm mainly targeting parents who maybe have heard of martial arts or have considered putting their kids in martial arts, but they're not really sure. I want to help them kind of get over that hump, learn the right program to pick for their child, some of the things to look for, and then do a little bit of myth busting. I've been posting some content about some stuff that, parents think like martial arts will make their child more aggressive, and that's just not the case if it's done properly. It'll make them more aggressive on the mat and in situations where they need to be aggressive, but in their everyday life, no, it won't do that. It'll make them more confident, more outspoken, but not necessarily more aggressive where they're just attacking people for no reason. So that's the plan there. So I'm really excited about that, to start shifting. I've already started shifting some of my content, but to be able to go live there is going to be huge for me to start developing a little bit deeper relationships through that social medium. And then now that I'm able to drive, I'm able to take myself to PT, still have that twice a week. I'm going to be over at the gym at Fusion probably at least 2 or 3 times a week, observing, watching, maybe doing a little bit of coaching for the guys that I know and that want it. I never want to overstep. It's not my job to go there and to coach, but I do feel a responsibility as a martial artist and someone who is experienced at that to help other people. That's what martial arts is about. So if people are willing to accept the help, I'm going to help them. I'm also there to learn and improve myself, and I feel like everyone should be there to learn and improve themselves and help others. So that's what I believe, and that's what I'm going to do. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to start doing some light bag work, maybe a little bit of light pad work as I get some active range of motion in my arm. We'll see. I'm going to take it nice and slow, but I am going to try to do whatever I can as soon as I can, obviously within reason and within the restrictions that I'm working with. So I'll be getting back to private lessons. Like I said, I started this week, so I should be getting back to those more next week and the weeks after that. And then working with the prep school, I have that once a week session on Thursdays, so I'll make sure to be updating about that weekly on here if there's anything different going on with my shoulder or that class in general. So like I said, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat or in the comments. I appreciate you watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that you get notifications when I'm going live. It'll be every Friday. Usually it's like late morning, early afternoon. That may change, but even so, if you're just here for a couple minutes, I would much appreciate it. But Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.